One of the things I would say to my younger self is, no, don't be scared. I think procurement professionals tend to sit in the corner. One of my jokes is that, you go to any company meeting, there's 200 IT people, there's 50 marketing people, and the procurement folks sit in the corner and say, don't hurt me, right? My younger self probably needs to be a little bit more active, be out there. That's one of the challenges that we face as a profession, that we're really good at doing stuff, but we're terrible at patting ourselves on the back. And, the old days of sending out newsletters and all, that doesn't work. You have to be visible in the organization. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to be a presence in your company. And don't be afraid if that's not the right fit for you and you got to find another fit, right? So that's the biggest thing I would say. I've come to that later in my career. I've had the opportunity to do this particular event and speak at some conferences, but that comes from being out there and not sitting in the background.
Thanks so much for joining another edition of The Never Ending Climb for Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Tony Gagliardi. Born in Italy, raised in New York, procurement and real estate expert, happens to be a football fan, as you may guess, and he loves bourbon. Tony, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for the invite. Glad to be here. And let's be specific. It's college football is my expertise, both Alabama and Georgia. So
that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So when we think about real estate, because location, it matters so much. And real estate and procurement, I'd love to get kind of a 101 from you, Tony. What do procurement supply chain professionals need to understand about real estate and procurement?
Sure. I mean, real estate tends to stem out of facilities, and we as procurement people tend to avoid facilities. It's too hot, it's too cold, the coffee's not right, which is always a big problem. The challenge is, as you morph into more value-driven areas, real estate is an untapped potential for procurement professionals. It's generally an area we've stayed away from, but encompasses a lot of the same skills that you use in all vendor management. The challenge with real estate is that you can only really impact it when there's a significant event, end of lease terminations, but we've had a lot of success in helping our organization drive value by influencing our real estate portfolio.
And I think that portfolio is pretty critical because location, and with that, there's the benefits of lead time and so on, or access, but there's also other risk factors. And I know just before we pressed record, we were talking about something that happened around one of your favorite distilleries in New Orleans. And I was sharing briefly this municipality called High River, of all names, that somehow thought it was a good idea to approve a new community right by the river, right in that dip where you've got the low area next to the river. Sure enough, next time the water got a little high, everyone's house is toast. So this kind of risk factor in real estate and some of the benefits of real estate, this is often something that procurement has such a critical role in highlighting and bringing up.
Yeah, the background and the risk factors associated with it. I do some talks on this topic, and I always point out this picture of a building going up. And when you move into a new building, you're like, this is great. Well, the challenge is later on, there may be somebody who takes the space in front of you and your view of the river went away. When I speak about real estate, I talk about boulders and pebbles. In these smaller offices, you tend to have the ability to have more flexibility, those risk factors. But when you're putting in a new corporate location or changing your corporate headquarters, the risks behind it have to be evaluated and have to be explored through a lot of different avenues. And that's the challenge the effort that we can do as a procurement professional is exploring all those risks in the background before the decisions are made and bringing them to the forefront, rather than waiting till a crisis comes where the river rises up or there's a fire in a distillery and it closes, right?
That's so important. And I think it's the excitement of a new location and how shiny it might be, or what color sofa you're going to put in the lobby, that people get more excited about. But there's as you said, other things that need to be considered. Those are the things that are less sexy, they're less exciting, but they're examples of things that either make or break the longer term success of decisions, investments in real estate.
They do, because where we work is almost important sometimes as how we work. And those environments that you create, as we know, this small thing called COVID happened, and that's really changed the real estate portfolio. It is now a
Right?
drive to create environments that people are attracted to come into when they come into the office. Before it was like, hey, this is our office, this is where you work, but creating an environment for your corporate office has been critical to organizations to getting people to come back to the office. Less so in the manufacturing world because a line is a line, but corporate environments not only is it a reflection of your brand, but it's a
Yeah.
reflection of your culture, and everything behind it is important, and it's important to evaluate those when you're making those changes, whether it's remodeling at a lease term or renewing or creating a new space. There's a lot of other things we can get into about new office locations, but there's a lot of risk factors associated with those.
What I love about that is the opportunity to consider risk in the procurement process around those selection of or evaluation of different options for real estate. I think the probability is one of those things that people don't spend much time thinking about. There's the, flooding in New Orleans or flooding in High River. I mean, it was in the name, really. Come on. But if the probability is low, but the severity is extremely high, those things that we don't do very often feel like the uncomfortable parts of the conversation that need to be had, and really that's part of our role in supply chain procurement to go help make sure that those things are coming up. But then that needs to have a sense of credibility coming from the counterparts in the business so that there's work to do leading up to those procurement events to help make sure that there is that seat at the table. What have you learned about building credibility to make sure that the procurement team is invited to those conversations?
Yeah, we started a little bit about real estate, but it's really the background behind us got us there. You have to deliver value to the organization, and you have to take on the projects to get that credibility to be able to be involved in the larger projects. A little bit fortunate here in my organization that we were sort of a greenfield indirect procurement organization. There was a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah.
It's harder when you're going into an organization through a transformational change or a leadership change, but we had a ground up condition here. And there were a lot of people that didn't want to talk to the procurement organization. They're like, oh, you guys are just problematic. You guys just slow us down. But we had to go step by step and take on some wins and show the value. The key is having the vocabulary to be able to find the right areas, whether that's vocabulary, experience, or gray hair. You have to have the knowledge to find which areas to go on to get you those wins that and is a step-by-step approach. So real estate came later, but it's really the foundational steps of getting the credibility to get people to listen to you.
It's so amazing how many things in life and business and supply chain procurement come right back down to do they know, like, and trust you? And that credibility that comes out of creating a yes, it's very difficult to be invited to the big one if you haven't built that credibility of adding value, delivering value, and showing why they should invite you in the first place. I mean, compliance or policy alone is no reason for you to be there. Maybe the board would say differently, but we all have to earn it. And there's always that kind of a, what have you done for me lately? So that I'm hoping there's maybe a story or some advice that you might give to your younger self that has helped you and would help others in building that credibility, or a story maybe.
Yeah, I think one of the things I would say to my younger self is no, don't be scared. I think procurement professionals tend to sit in the corner. One of my jokes is that, you go to any company meeting, there's 200 IT people, there's 50 marketing people, and the procurement folks sit in the corner and say, don't hurt me, right? My younger self probably needs to be a little bit more active, be out there. That's one of the challenges that we face as a profession, that we're really good at doing stuff, but we're terrible at patting ourselves on the back. And, the old days of sending out newsletters and all, that doesn't work. You have to be visible in the organization. Don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to be a presence in your company. And don't be afraid if that's not the right fit for you and you got to find another fit, right? So that's the biggest thing I would say. I've come to that later in my career. I've had the opportunity to do this particular event and speak at some conferences, but that comes from being out there and not sitting in the background.
I love that sense of visibility. And I mean, clearly, Tony, you're putting yourself out there in a wonderful way because you're out there on LinkedIn, you're on podcasts. And I think this sense of things that we can do as practitioners to put in the reps, to do the work to get comfortable. Because we don't just kind of wake up one morning and go, hey, I'm comfortable. It's all of the little things that we've done to go get ourselves, to make ourselves, to stretch ourselves, to become comfortable. And I'm imagining that there's a maybe a few steps that you've gone through on your journey that have helped you build that muscle.
Yeah, I think the visibility aspect and having a platform to speak on, whether that's LinkedIn or some other method. That's not the, I'm not trying to advertise for LinkedIn, but that happens to be my platform. Being visible and being out there. Through a confluence of events, I started doing some speaking, and you'll find that there's other people that want to hear your voice. And just to get an idea, one of the things I like to say is the worst time to network, and I got this from somebody, worst time to network is when you're walking around with a cardboard box. Be out there, be visible, and be in your world,
Yeah.
right? With local community or other organizations to be out there. Don't wait for it to come to you. And it's a fun ride when you get out there. It's a little scary sometimes, but being out there, being present in the world is great.
I 100% agree, Tony. I would add that hiding takes many forms. And sometimes hiding comes from a place of I'm not worthy, I don't have anything valuable to share, or they don't want to hear from me anyway. But really, it usually comes down to are you even on their mind? And hiding in the background, whether you're at a team event or a company event or an all hands or whatever, makes it very, very difficult. So getting out there and making sure that you earn the right and demonstrate the value that you've added and be proud of that. Help share that. And that earns the right to go and have more positive interactions. And that's a self-fulfilling cycle. That's beautiful. And I like seeing you do that to me is a great example of things to your younger self and to so many people out there that feel like I'm just procurement. I want a seat at the table. Okay, become the person that's earned the seat at the table.
Yeah, I've had a little bit of debate with a colleague of mine. Don't that person was waiting for the mandate, the mythical mandate to use procurement. Don't don't wait for that. That doesn't exist unless you're in a draconian company that you probably don't want to be in. You have to get that mandate yourself, and that's by being forthright. There's a football joke in here that there's a football coach that has an unflappable opinion about himself. Happens to be at the Kurt Cignetti. But the point is, you have to have that unflappable opinion by yourself. You have to back it up. Don't be arrogant. Don't have an unflappable opinion and then not have any substance behind it. But you have to
Yeah.
be out there and make that happen for yourself. Nobody else is going to make it happen for you.
I love that. There's so much to help people that are earlier in their career because I think when you don't have the gray hair, the white hair, sometimes people imagine, why would anyone listen to me anyway? But if you're solving you touched on it, that language piece is so key. If you're talking the language that that stakeholder cares about in your business and talking about how that makes the business successful, that's how you earn the right, whether you got a baby face or you got a face of white hair.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I tend to do these kind of events. Those of us with some gray hair, it's kind of impingent upon us to share that knowledge. What I found over and over again is everybody, you hear AI, you'll hear ERP, everybody thinks everybody's modernized, but there's folks in the back of a room that are working off of Excel and some antiquated system that need the help, that could just use the talk. And that's what I enjoy doing about sharing that knowledge with folks and understand you're not alone. There's a lot of companies that are still struggling on antiquated systems. There's probably companies that would love to replace them, but organizations get very comfortable in their systems and processes, and generally finance doesn't like spending the money.
Or necessarily changing. If you take the personality type of an accountant, they are not usually the first ones on the personality models to want to branch out.
Absolutely.
So, the trying new things, not necessarily a strong suit. Tony, I'm really grateful for you taking the time. If there was something that you would want a listener, watcher to remember 6 weeks from now that you would hope that they really take home from this? That's something just on your heart that you know would really serve them. What would you want to say to them?
Focus on yourself and making yourself better. Whether that requires you to do it on your own time and money, don't wait for the company to take care of you. Take care of yourself. And that's by getting out there, doing stuff to make you a better person, make you a better professional, and to grow your career. The days of going into a company, and I was victim to this, right? Going to a company, working hard and hoping it works out, and you'll come out 30 days later, 30 years later, are gone. You have to constantly be out there and be visible and make yourself better.
I love that. That, Tony, you just described what the never ending climb means to me of build a better you to serve all the people you know, love, and care about. And I think you said it so well. Tony, grateful for you, for your time, your wisdom, and thank you very much for joining.
Hey, Sean, appreciate the opportunity. Hit me up on LinkedIn and we'll see you somewhere down the road.
Amazing. We'll definitely run into each other at one of these events coming up. And for everybody watching, this is another edition of The Never Ending Climb for Stronger Supply Chain and Procurement. See you next week.